What is your perception about this spectacle, and are you confident that your young team can beat a powerful Indian team?
Look, I've certainly watched many games from afar, whether with other teams or commentating. So certainly being on the other side of the fence, I guess, um, being right and amongst such a highly charged event is going to be exciting. And it's, I guess, from my perspective, just like any time you enter whether it be a final of a world event or whatever, it's about keeping everybody focused on the job at hand, and that'll be no different in the weekend. So, we know that India are obviously uh, hugely confident, and rightfully so, in terms of how well they've played. But, we're very much focused on improving as a team, sort of day by day, and not getting too far ahead of ourselves. But we're well aware of I wouldn't say the enormity of the task, I'd say the challenge of the task ahead, and we're certainly looking forward to it.
Mike, a few minutes ago you visited Dubai beach. Is this different from Sharjah? And for tomorrow's match, have you finalized 11?
No, we haven't finalised. I mean, part of that process is coming and looking at the wicket, which I've done today. So obviously, coming and looking at the pitch, assessing the differences. We've played here a bit before, very different than Sharjah in terms of the abrasiveness of the grass. So we know the conditions pretty well. We obviously saw a little glimpse of it last night. We're playing on the same surface tomorrow, so very much looking forward to that. And I think within our squad, we've got the balance to deal with that. We've got plenty of multi-skilled players, which give us a bit of flexibility.
Hi, Mike. Just want to know from the Tri-Nation series, the template that you followed, the spinners doing so well. Do you think come Sunday the battle will be between the wrist spinners like Sufyan Mukim and Abrar on one side, Chakravarti and Kuldeep on the other side? Like they hold the key, the couple of wrist spinners of both sides?
Look, I don't think you can expect that this pitch is going to spin like it did in Sharjah. And even yesterday, when Kuldeep bowled, it didn't spin a huge amount. So I think whenever you got wrist spinners like that, it doesn't really matter about the surface as much. I guess the beauty of our side is we've got 5 spinners. We've got Mohammad Nawaz, who's the best spin bowler in the world at the moment, and he's been ranked that way over the last 6 months since he's come back in the side. And obviously we've had Abrar and Sufyan do as well as he has. Simo's now in the top 10 all-rounders in the world. So obviously that comes on the back of his improved performance with the ball. And Salman Ali Agha's hardly bowled, and he's obviously the test spinner for Pakistan. So, we've got a lot of spin bowling options if we think conditions suit that. If we don't, we've got 5 seamers as well who allow us to either go for airspeed or change of pace or reverse swing depending on what we think the surface will provide.
Mike, just 2 parts. One is, are you confident about the batting? Because and I'm talking about obviously the Oman game and the India game. The way we saw, there was a lot of discussion about that. Should Mohammad Haris be there or not in the lower order? And then the way inconsistency being shown by Said Zala and Sam. And then you have someone like Hesson Nawaz who's coming up with a good performance in the past, but now again not doing well in the tri series, except that one game. So are you confident with the batting? And the second thing is, there is a school of thought which is saying that Pakistani batters, most of them, are not reading it from the hand. Are you concerned about that? Apart from the captain Salman Ali Agha and Mohammad Nawaz, apart from that, they are not able to pick up with the hand from the hand of the spinners.
Look, I'll answer your first question. I really don't know where that's come from and who would make that assessment. We've played against Rashid, Noor. We've played against probably the best wrist spin attack in the world on a surface that has spun square, and we managed to score 70 more than our opposition. So I'm not quite sure where that's come from. The other part, I mean, look, you're right. Like we are, it's very much a developing batting lineup, and there's a number of players who, on their day, can win you the game, but they don't have as many good days as you'd like at the moment. I think that's very fair. The thing for us, though, is we're more interested in, I guess, the sum of the parts as a batting group. And in every game in Sharjah by bar one, we were probably 20 above par. So even though, there were a number of players that didn't do well on particular occasions, I'm more interested in what we end up with and how we get there. And, even the final, like 120 was plenty on that pitch. We got 140. And I guess anyone, cricket people who were watching that game would have been well aware of that as the ball was stopping and spinning. So the fact we scrapped to 140, you're never going to play with fluency on those types of surfaces. We also got 200, we got 180, and we had 150 chasing, which was probably our poorest performance. Outside of that, as a batting unit, we've got the job done. Would we like every one of them to be in form at the same time? Of course, we would. And I guess the chance playing out here, and it certainly looks like it's going to be a pretty good pitch, is for a few of those guys to find some form and play in innings that we know they can play.
Hi, Mike. You are associated with Pakistan team with since the last few months. So, what did you learn from the Pakistani boys? Any Urdu, Punjabi, Pashto language?
Look, I've been fortunate enough to understand, not Pashto, but certainly quite a lot of Urdu. I'm not going to reel off a few statements right now, but I do understand a lot of Urdu. That's probably fortunate for me, having spent a bit of time in this part of the world. As for speaking Urdu, it's limited, but I certainly, you can't have players talking behind your back without you knowing what they're saying, so I'm certainly aware of all of those things.
Hi, Mike. You publicly spoke about the deficiencies in game of Babar and Misbah.
Just keep the mic close.
So, nowadays coaches don't really talk publicly about the weakness of players. So, where did you draw that courage from, and why are you so direct about it?
Sorry, I missed the first part of your question.
I'm saying you were very direct about telling publicly where Babar and Rizwan were not really up to the mark, and you said in a press conference, about Babar's strike rate and something was similar about Rizwan. So, is it your school of thought, or how do you manage to do that publicly?
I think being honest about your assessment of players, I think, is pretty important. And I think also coming from a place where you have no agenda is also very important. I think if you're able to come in as someone who can look at things objectively, I think that's important. I certainly haven't talked about anyone's frailties. What I've alluded to is obviously the way the modern game's played and the strike rate required in the power play is quite different than what's probably needed in the past, especially in good conditions. And I think that all players ask for as coaches or selectors or whatever to be honest with them and say, hey, these are the things that we'd love you to work on, and if you do that, then there's always a way back into any team, and I think that's the responsibility you've got. You can't, just because you like a player or you have a relationship with a player, doesn't mean you can't be honest. And I think that's all you ask, is that if players want to improve and want to contribute to the team, then you have a pretty clear role discrepancy for that, or role definition, and then it's up to players to work on those things, and that's what I ask of anybody in any team that we work on, current players and also players that are trying to fight their way back into the team.
Mike, during the Tri-Series, we saw Pakistani batters hit 44 sixes but lost 37 wickets. Are both these factors, you think, good enough for progress of this team?
As I said, I'm more interested in the sum of the parts. So what does the team actually achieve that particular day, and is it good enough? Because there are some times where 150 is good enough. There are one time where 190 might not be. So you've got to, as a batting unit, you've got to decide what's required to win the game, and can we get above that? That's the only thing that matters. It's not about average strike rate, whatever. It's what does the team need to help win that game of cricket? And that's certainly the thing that, as a bowling unit, we do the same thing. You know, how can we bowl well enough to keep the opposition below par? And if we're, as a batting unit, able to get above par, then obviously there's a difference between the two, and that's pretty much what we work on. So, you know, fours and sixes, we don't necessarily look at that. The reality is, I'd far rather be at 165 for 9 than 150 for 2 at the end of 20 overs. Because I know what wins the game. So the only thing that matters at the end is what's your score, what's your team score. It doesn't matter about anything other than that. It's the only thing that matters.
Thank you so much. Thank you. See you tomorrow.